guys, and welcome back to the Cruel Corner. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty corner for all things Formula E. Round number 2 here at Jeddah, the first doubleheader of the 2024/2025 campaign has come to a close, and what can be said? Another great race, another solid race, but I much preferred the pit boost race. I've got to be honest, I did enjoy this race. It was very close fought run battle, wasn't it? That was a great duel for second towards the end there. And don't get me wrong, it was still the usual chaos that I'm not going to be able to fully digest and fully talk about, and I'll get stuff wrong, but that's just always the way on here, isn't it? But yeah, the pit boost element sent to make the racing more controlled, if that makes sense. Obviously there was no peloton effect and things like that, and I enjoyed the dynamic that the pit boost put into it. So we're going to see how it goes going forward, of course, but I would say big success to the pit boost, and overall a great weekend here at Jeddah. So you've never seen this series before. I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points though. They're sometimes an offer for some drivers to do something extra special during a race, and on the rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers to do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look at the current Cruel Corner standings then going into this episode, shall we? It's on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is right now, currently in the standings, and based on how their race unfolded this time around here for round number 2 at Jeddah, can you see them going up? Can you see them going down? There's certainly a pecking order already being established just a few rounds in, and some of the drivers that necessarily had good races last time out haven't had a good one this time, have they? So yeah, let's see how they get on as we progress through the episode. So without further ado then, let's kick things off with the race winner then, shall we? Ollie Rowland! Now, I got it wrong in yesterday's episode and thought that Ollie won round 2, but he didn't, did he? This is his first win of the season, of course. So yeah, him and that Nissan pairing are a fantastic duo, aren't they? They are doing so well at the moment, doing so well. He was gutted to miss out on victory yesterday. Well, here it is this time around. He gets his just desserts, 4 seconds up the road. A perfectly executed strategy, taking the attack modes at the right time, picking his battles and duels at the right time, getting the toes off the cars ahead of him at the right time. He was just doing so well, but he sort of led from the front from the most part, which is not something we usually see in Formula E, because obviously the slipstream effect and the peloton effect that you see in Formula E is crucial to their energy efficiency. But Ollie Rowland did take part in that, but for them, he said on the interviews afterwards, he's like, look, I got a thump at turn 4 on lap 1, and he's like, I don't want to be in the gaggle. I need to break free, and then I can manage my own pace from there. If it's good enough for a win, it's good enough. If it's not, it's not, but at least I'll be able to finish, because whenever I'm dicing around 6th and downwards, he's getting involved in contact, people being daring, and I fully agree with him for that. He really drove the race brilliantly. It's like almost like Cassidy and Rowland have swapped places from a couple of years ago, isn't it? You know, Cassidy was on the verge of the championship just a couple of seasons ago, while Ollie Rowland was making ridiculous dives and lunges and not getting to the end of the race and things like that, with Mahindra stopping part way through. Yeah, I'm not saying Cassidy's doing that kind of effect, but the way the season's unfolding at the moment, it's like almost polar opposites to how they were just a couple of seasons ago. You know, it's crazy. But yeah, Ollie Rowland this race, I mean, what could be said? Everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. He did some good moves when he needed to, thought it out cleverly. I mean, let's put it into context. He's leading the championship now on 68 points. Nissan are leading the Constructors' Championship, or Teams' Championship, I should say, sorry, on 68 points. He is like the Max Verstappen of Formula 1 at the moment, isn't he? He's the sole point scorer and doing the maximum he can with the car he's got. I mean, let's not forget, we talked about it, didn't we? Round 1 this season, Ollie Rowland could have won that. If not, P2 at the very worst. That could be another 25 or 18 points on the board for him right there and then. But, you know, it's just how it is, isn't it? That is so unlucky that he got that drive through in that first round through no fault of his own. But let's hope the season and the momentum keeps going, because my oh my, are we going to be in for a treat. Love seeing Ollie Rowland up here, love seeing him take his first victory, and love seeing him have a fantastic weekend here at Jeddah. It's 11. It's 11. 1 bonus point from me. I think he did sublimely well and deserves a bonus point. Well done, Ollie Rowland. What a stunning race. 11 points to you. In second place, we come to Taylor Barnard in the McLaren. Also like Ollie Rowland, going 1 better than his result yesterday. P3 in round number 3, P2 here in round number 4. Absolutely fantastic. Taking his first ever pole position in Formula E as well, and becoming the youngest driver to do so. He's breaking records at the moment, isn't he? As for youngest driver to score points, youngest driver to get pole position, youngest driver to stand on the podium. Almost got a victory this time around, but it wasn't to be in the latter stages, as as mentioned, Ollie Rowland managed to build up a nice gap of over 4 seconds, and Taylor Barnard, struggling with his efficiency towards the end, had to hold off and fight from the likes of Jake Hughes, Jake Dennis. There was Nick Cassidy in there as well towards the end. So there was a lot to fight for, there was a lot to play for in this particular race, and Taylor Barnard, P2. I think he'd have been going into the race hoping for a podium, to be honest with you. I don't think he was sort of hunkering down for the victory. I don't think he was really expecting the victory because, let's be honest with you, Ollie Rowland did a great job as always. They know that he's a threat. For what Max Gunther did in yesterday's race, they'd have been seeing him as a threat. Costa, of course, had a great qualifying, was further up the order than he was the previous round, so there'd have been a lot of threats around that McLaren were like, let's keep his expectations where they are. So for Taylor Barnard to cross the line in P2, a stunning effort, a great haul of points. He's really just driving the wheels off that thing, isn't it? 3 podiums out of 4 races in his first full campaign. It's simply sublime. It really is. They said they were hoping for a good haul of points this weekend going in. They weren't even expecting a podium. So the fact that they've had the pace to get a genuine pole position, on the road pole position as well, you know, and then to secure another podium. 2 podiums, a pole position. It's stunning, isn't it? It's simply stunning. So for Taylor Barnard, it's 11 points as well. It is 11 points as well to Taylor Barnard. 1 bonus point to him for what has been an impeccable drive this weekend overall. And this race in particular, once again, chose his battle as well. There was that moment, wasn't there, when Grassi decided to take the attack mode really early. And they were like, just let him pass. And Taylor Barnard was like, no, because it's another car for me to overtake later. Didn't cost himself time, but positioned the car well enough that Grassi couldn't get around him. That's some smart driving from a kid that's only in like his 7th ever Formula E race in his first full campaign. Well done, Taylor Barnard. 11 to you. 3rd place, we come to Jake Hughes in the Maserati, securing his 2nd ever podium in Formula E. The last one, of course, happened last season at Shanghai for the McLaren squad. Here he is for his new team at Maserati, taking P3 on the road. It was a step up again from what we saw of Jake and the Maserati squad in yesterday's race. It was good to see them. They're a little bit more fighting. They seem to have got the setup on the car working a little bit better, managing the efficiency and the pace a little bit better as well. Was unlucky not to be able to nab Taylor Barnard there at the end for P2. He tried his best, didn't he? And Jake Dennis was pinching on his heels as well to try and get P3 off of him. So the fact he was able to cross the line and secure a podium was great. But Jake Hughes had a great race. Once again, getting himself inside, you know, the top 6, getting inside the duels is a fantastic effort. Gets himself in there, he's in the mix. And this time around, they were able to hold on to what they couldn't quite hold on to in round number 3, of course. So they did a great job once again. I don't think they could have executed it any better. I just think that was the pace of their car, that was the pace of Jake Hughes, and did a solid job in doing so. Like I say, securing a podium, almost got P2 but didn't quite, and then had to fend off to the end from Jake Dennis, who was charging down that start-finish line, didn't he? Coming out that last chicane, Jake Dennis was absolutely on it, but Jake Hughes was able to secure that P3, and rightfully so as well. It was well-deserved, well-earned, and did a great job. It's a perfect 10 from me for Jake Hughes. Stunning effort, stunning drive, and a British 1-2-3 as well. Let's not forget that. So my British bias is clearly coming through right now, isn't it? Yeah, sensational drive by Jake. Really good to see him back on the podium again. And good to see him have a solid weekend here at Jeddah, because I think that'll boost his confidence going for the remainder of the season. Got caught up in a tangle in the first race, didn't he, of the season? Second race, I can't remember what happened there. I think he may have picked up a point or 2, but not really anything special or spectacular. But this time around, a solid weekend at Jeddah, and fully deserving of a perfect 10, because he rounds out the podium and he thoroughly deserves it. 4th place to complete a British 1-2-3-4, we come to Jake Dennis in the Andretti. What's happened to Andretti? Well, I say what's happened to Andretti. They had these problems last time, didn't they? They had these problems last season where their single one-lap pace is absolutely nowhere, propping up the back of the field once again for Jake Dennis. And it's damage limitation from there. It really is. We know, of course, that how chaotic Formula E races can be. We've seen people start at the back and win the bloody thing. We know that it's possible. But you always just lose the confidence, and you always lose the ability to work out what's happening in a race the further back you start. So Jake Dennis has mentioned position, was hunting down Jake Hughes towards the end there as Taylor Barnard and Jake Hughes fought ahead. He made a good move, he made a couple of lunges on Jake Hughes, but it wasn't enough, and he secures P4, but still a solid drive from where he was at the start of the race. It has to be commended. I've gone for the slightly harsh score for Jake Dennis of 9. I've took a little point off there because I just feel that the guys that got the podium really do deserve crediting for that. I think they've done a great job there. They've done an amazing job to get themselves into those podium places. And Jake Dennis, a fantastic drive, superb drive, coming from the back of the field to secure a P4 finish. But if there was going to be a car and a team that would do it and a driver that would do it, you would probably put your edge of your bets on Andretti to be able to do so. So he's sort of done what was expected in a weird sort of way. I know that sounds daft, but yeah, great recovery nonetheless. No criticism towards Jake Dennis. I just feel the guys that were on the podium deserve that little bit more praise. But Jake Dennis, a great race, carved his way through the field. Like most things in Formula E, I didn't really see how he did it. He was just obviously managing the attack modes. He was on the attack mode quite late towards the end, which got him the few places to get up. But he got himself inside the top 10 from about mid-race, didn't he? And then just slowly picked him and chipped him away. So yeah, great effort. Jake Dennis, 9 points to him. Next up we come to Nick Cassidy, finally picking up some points for his championship campaign, but it's only P5, it's 10 points on the board. So as daft as it sounds, he's already lost out again to his title rivals, because that's 4 rounds in. There's Ollie Rowland taking a win. There's Taylor Barnard taking a P2. You know, I know it's early days, and I know Nick Cassidy will just be thankful to get some points on the board, but the way you look at it already, yeah, it's 10 points, but however, he's still lost 15 to Ollie Rowland this race. It's how my mind's working anyway. But nonetheless, for Nick Cassidy, I think it was a good fight, a fair race, a brilliant effort once again to climb his way back from the back of the field. I don't know what's going on with Jaguar. I really can't. The frustration within that squad must be, well, at an all-time high, because they've had pacing races but haven't had the luck. And then this time around, they didn't have the one-lap pace in qualifying, was not too far away from the back. Was he P18, P19, somewhere around there? Propping up the back of the field, but sort of did a Jake Dennis kind of drive and was able to elevate his way through the field. Once again, we know what Nick Cassidy's like. He's able to choose his attack modes well. The team strategy is quite good as well at Jaguar, of course. And here he is finally picking up some points for his championship campaign, but 4 rounds in on 10 points, Ollie Rowland on 68. The momentum is firmly in that Ollie Rowland's camp at the moment, isn't it? And it'll be a shame to see it vanish so quickly, but we've got quite a big gap now until the next Formula E race. 5 weeks. 5 weeks. So a lot can happen in that time. We'll wait and see. But for now, Nick Cassidy, it's a solid 8 from me. Great to see him finally get some points on the board. But damage limitation, I guess you could say, in terms of the championship fight. But it's already looking quite impossible, isn't it? 6th place, we come to Stoffel Vandoorne in the Maserati. Now, his teammate P3, Stoffel Vandoorne 6th. You think, well, that's not too good, is it? But Stoffel Vandoorne got chucked to the back of the grid because his fire extinguisher wasn't operating in the car. It wasn't switched on. So, of course, that is a technical infringement. You need to have the fire extinguisher available to be deployed in the event of an accident, in the event of a fire, during the qualifying session. It wasn't armed, so that means, I'm afraid, you're back at the grid, my friend. Yeah. Shame for that, but at least then, you know, he got his head down and delivered a P6 effort. It's kind of like Mortara in the first round, isn't it, really, if you look at it? At Jeddah, Mortara sent to the back of the grid because he couldn't qualify due to a technical issue with the car, and then climbed his way up to P7. Vandoorne's pretty much done the same. Jake Hughes has scored 10 points. Vandoorne had a great drive and got himself here inside the top 6. Might be a little bit of a harsh score, this, for Vandoorne, to be fair, based on what happened to him, but I've given him 8. 8 points to Vandoorne. I think it's a fair score, respectable score, don't get me wrong. And no criticism to Vandoorne at all. That's probably the best drive we've seen of him this season so far. You know, errors outside of his control, fire extinguisher not being switched on, loses a few places on the grid, and has to start from the back, recovers to P6. It's a great effort, isn't it? It is a good effort, to be fair. So yeah, I don't want to criticise anything, but I don't want to give him the same score as his teammate, because his teammate's up there on the podium and had a great qualifying. So it's just one of those, isn't it? 8 to Stoffel Vandoorne. In 7th place, we come to Jean-Eric Vergne in the first of the DS Penske's. A solid weekend overall by Vergne, but just didn't look to have the measure of his teammate, did he? Particularly in that first race. And, of course, we know what happened in the second race with Gunther. We'll come to him in a moment, of course. But you sort of look at how Gunther's performance went. That wasn't translated by Vergne at any point or any stage this weekend, unfortunately. Still able to pick up a few points, though, and still able to keep himself out of trouble, which is a great result, great effort. We know how chaotic Formula E is and can be at times. Yeah, Jean-Eric Vergne, it was a difficult one, isn't it? Because DS Penske have always looked like that nearly car, haven't they? They've always looked like they could almost do something. And then when we saw it yesterday with Maxi Gunther having an impeccable drive, a stunning performance, you sort of look at Jean-Eric Vergne's performance over the weekend and you go, there's a little bit missing there because, okay, Gunther out on lap 1, number 1. Yeah, you know, you sort of think, well, Vergne can maybe do what Gunther did. Didn't deliver the results, unfortunately. So it's not a big score, but it's not overly harsh. You know, I think everyone knows I like Jean-Eric Vergne greatly. I think he's great. I think he's a great asset to the championship. I think he's a great asset to the DS Penske squad. But for this race around in particular, I'm only going to give him a 6.5. You look at the cars ahead that, you know, again, climbed through the field, that just had stunning performances throughout the weekend entirely. And you judge the weekend overall for Vergne and just almost a little bit something missing compared to his teammate in the first race as mentioned, and then this race in particular secures a few points, kept you out of trouble, but apart from that, nothing exciting or spectacular or special really happened with Vergne. I'm sure there'll probably be some issue with strategy and probably taking the attack mode a little bit too early and things like that, but once again it's incredibly difficult to judge. It's incredibly difficult for me to sit down and work out a race. I think if I watched the race 4 times and studied every single driver as much as possible, I'd still get things wrong. So yeah, I'm not fully blaming Jean-Eric Vergne for what happened this weekend, but just a little bit something lacking for me personally this time around, based on the cars that finished ahead of him and around him, and how the weekend's gone overall. 6.5 to Jean-Eric Vergne. A solid enough weekend, but nothing special. 8th place, we come to Pascal Wehrlein in the first of the Porsches. Tough weekend indeed by Pascal Wehrlein. Got the puncture, of course, in the first round here at Jeddah due to Mitch Evans just absolutely ramming into the back of him like a clown. And then this race in particular, qualifying wasn't fantastic. The race pace, okay, worked out well that he got himself into the points, but only a P8 and 4 points. Difficult, that, isn't it? Difficult. He got 3 points for pole in the race previous. So, yeah, it's a difficult one overall for Pascal Wehrlein. Again, I'd just like to have seen him make more progress through the field. The Porsche powertrain we know has certainly got the capabilities to deliver and do that. I just think that Jeddah, with possibly the temperatures, who knows, was even the powertrains out somewhat, and this is what's caused sort of the jumble effect and the more surprising results, shall we say, and the more surprising people that run the pace. But yeah, overall for Pascal Wehrlein for this race in particular, it's 6. It's 6. Qualifying wasn't the best. The race he was able to get a few points, but again, nothing special or spectacular. Didn't make the waves through the field like we expected him to. I mean, you see Jake Dennis up there. You'd sort of expect Wehrlein to be in and around that area. I know it was a big gaggle of cars towards the end over the line, wasn't it? But Pascal Wehrlein was very much on the back foot of that gaggle and wasn't able to make his way through. So yeah, Pascal Wehrlein, no disrespect or discredit to him, but you look at the guys further up the field that did a much better job this race, and it's 6 points to Pascal Wehrlein. In 9th place, we come to the first of the Kiro race status quo, quid pro quo, Neo, whatever you want to call them. It is Dan Ticktum. Well-deserved, Dan. Well-deserved indeed. A great qualifying once again to get himself inside that top 10. And then in the race itself, kept himself inside those positions. He did a really good job at that. This is the result that should have come yesterday as well, of course, but had an issue with the charging of the car during the pit stop and sent him miles back down the field, unfortunately unable to do anything from there. This race around though, of course, no pit stop boost, so he didn't need to worry about that and just focused on running his own race and secured P9 and a couple of points for the team. I think that's a great result. I think it should have happened yesterday as well. Maybe even an 8th should have been possible yesterday, to be fair, but at least there's sort of damage limitation. They got a couple more points on the board. I think that takes their tally to 6 now, so that's of course good in terms of fighting with the Lola Yamaha team. yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to get any further up the field from there, to be honest with you, especially how well Mahindra's doing of late, of course, and we know other teams are having problems and difficulties, but they are able to climb up through the field, aren't they? You know, like Envision, struggling at the moment, but I'm sure they'll have a race where they're able to get up there. At the moment, Kiro race, very much damage limitation. Let's get what we can as quickly as possible. Let's gather up as many points as we can. It was a missed opportunity yesterday, but today, Dan Ticktum qualified himself inside that top 10, kept himself inside that top 10, with an outdated powertrain in the back of it, and you know, a team that's still very much financially limited in terms of what they can do compared to the other teams around them. I think it punched above his weight. I think he deserves a full 10 points from me. Well done to Dan Ticktum. Maybe I was harsh with his score yesterday, of course, because he did nothing wrong, but today's race, absolutely impeccable. Did what he could with the equipment he was given and did a stunning job with it to deliver a couple of points for an underfunded team with an old spec powertrain. It's 10 points. Well done, Dan Ticktum. Great effort. Really great job. Last of the point scorers, we come to Edoardo Mortara in the Mahindra. Has Mahindra's luck deserted them this race? I think this was probably the unluckiest they've had it, to be honest, so far this season, of course. Edoardo Mortara securing P10 here with just a solitary point doesn't tell the whole story. He was affected and hindered by the contact that happened between Maxi Gunther and Costa at the start off the line. He had to take evasive action, went off the track, lost a load of places. He got himself inside the top 10 once again. A stunning performance there. But meant he was in the wrong place at the wrong time when that contact occurred. Lost a load of places, a heap of places, and tumbled down, pretty much down to about 17th, 18th, I think it was, and then was able to climb his way through the field and secure one crucial point. He did, of course, cross the line in P11, but Sam Bird's 5-second time penalty knocked him out of the points and put Edoardo Mortara in. So a little bit of luck in that sense. However, Edoardo Mortara, once again, with the pace of the car he had, it was a shame he got caught up in an incident that wasn't his fault, but able to deliver and keep going as well. Let's not forget that. He kept going, kept himself out of trouble, and then benefited from a time penalty ahead to secure a point. Great recovery, good recovery, solid. I think it's amazing how we're going to say that just a P10 finish for Mahindra and 1 point in a race is a disappointing result for him, because that's how well their first 3 races have gone this season. Bad luck happens in Formula E. Looks like they've had a bit of a spoonful of it this time around, but Edoardo Mortara still delivering a point after a difficult start. Good effort. 7.5 to Mortara. Well deserved, solid score that, respectable score, and once again, doing the job for Mahindra. A shame that it wasn't more, but at least he got something. 7.5 to Edoardo Mortara. Just outside the points, we come to the second of the Andrettis with Nico Muller. Yeah, huge disappointment once again for Nico Muller, not securing any points this particular race or this weekend at all, unfortunately. But this time around, once again, plump dead last, really, weren't they? They're sort of like down in the bottom delves of the grid order, really struggling to make their way through. Jay Dennis was able to get himself into P4 after starting at the back. Nico Muller could only manage P11, so that is a shame. That is very disappointing to say that. The one lap pace, that Andretti, once again, so poor. They need to sort that out, they really do. Nico Muller not able to make progress like his teammate did, unfortunately, and for that reason it's just going to be a middle of the road 5 to him. It's frantic in the mid-pack. You know, he'd have probably been in the wrong place at the wrong time in a couple of situations. Maybe took the attack modes earlier to try and gain the positions and then try and defend from them. And that's probably what happened. But in the end, he didn't even get a point as a result of penalties ahead for Sam Bird. He was only just P11. The maybe, the nearly man. The worst place to finish in Formula E is P11 because you get nothing for your efforts. And unfortunately, this time around, it's just a middle of the road 5 to Nico Muller. Not a great weekend overall. Coming away from a double-header with no points on the board. It's a tough one, isn't it? Securing 12th place after being demoted 2 positions due to a 5-second time penalty for not following race directors' instructors at one of the corners. We do, of course, come to Sam Bird. And there we have it, Lotterer of the Week to Sam Bird. He has been royally shown up this particular weekend overall, let alone this race, by his much more younger, inexperienced teammate of Taylor Barnard. Sam Bird crossing the line in P10. He got a 5-second time penalty for not following the race director's instructors at one of the chicanes. He was supposed to come to a complete halt and then go again. He didn't. He got biffed out the way, which in fairness, a little bit you know, not great, is it, when you get biffed off, and frustration meant he didn't come to a stop and carried on going. So had he stopped and then got going, it'd have probably not been in the points anyway, but at least you've got more of an excuse then, haven't you? So yeah, unfortunately for him, the 5-second time penalty meant he didn't finish P10 and securing a point. He finished P12 and outside the points. He didn't have a great qualifying either compared to his teammate Taylor Barnard, of course, the pole sitter Taylor Barnard, and Sam Bird only just broke inside the top 10, didn't he? So didn't have a great run there either. It has to be a Lotterer of the Week simply for the fact that Taylor Barnard has done 2 podiums this race around. Yeah, Sam Bird was unlucky in the first race, of course, to get spun around by Costa, we believe. But, of course, this second race, there's no excuses whatsoever. Just didn't have the pace to make his way up through the field. Got himself in the mid-pack, in the dirty zone, where it gets a little bit frantic and a little bit frisky. And that's it, tumbled down the order. So a big shame for him for that. And no points on the board this race when his teammate delivers a P2 and a pole position. Difficult, isn't it? Lotterer of the Week to Sam Bird. Next up, we come to Nyck de Vries in the second of the Mahindras. What a shame for Nyck de Vries here, finishing in on unlucky for some P13. Yeah, difficult race this one. Qualified himself in P8, but just didn't have the momentum or the pace to get himself up through the field like we saw in the first race here at Jeddah. And yeah, just tumbled down the order, unfortunately. Was clean on to the points for quite a number of laps, but then just sort of faded away towards the end. I don't know if they went for an early attack mode strategy potentially, and then obviously got caught napping towards the end as other cars took it later. But yeah, P13. It seems unfortunate that de Vries is here, especially when he finished behind his teammate, who was, of course, hampered in the race due to the first lap collision between Gunther and Costa. So yeah, de Vries, shame to see him down here. And securing no points, which is his first race this season that he's picked up no points at all. So after a fantastic P4, here in a struggling P13, it's a Miller 05. Miller 05 to me for de Vries. Not quite sure what went wrong, but I certainly think this weekend has been a positive weekend for Mahindra. Would have been great to see yet another double points finish though, and I think de Vries could have delivered that. 5 to de Vries. Next up, we come to Robin Frijns in the Envision. Of course there's no points for Envision. Of course there isn't. I don't know what the hell's happening with them. Really, really struggling now. Really struggling. P14. P14. Constructors Champions 2 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago. Constructors Champions. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. They are really struggling, aren't they? Robin Frijns is the Miller 05 again. I don't know if I can do any more or any less than that. Is it the drivers? Is it the team? Is it a combination of both? I really don't know, but I have no idea what's going on at Envision. I don't know why it's gone so drastically wrong, and it can't just be the fact that they've not adapted to the new generation of Gen 3 car, you know, the Gen 3 Evo. It's not like they're struggling now. They were struggling last season like this. So there's something fundamentally wrong within that team, because they have got the powertrain to be up at the front. They've proved that they've had the pace in years previous to have the pace for victories, challenge for championships, get championships. Yeah, but it's just not happening for him, is it? It really isn't. So yeah, Miller 05 to Robin Frijns. Can't say anything about his race. Didn't see anything of him. But at P14, come on. Following on from Robin Frijns, we come to Norman Nato in the Nissan. That's right, it's Norman Nato in the Nissan. And there we have it, the second Lotterer of the Week to Norman Nato in the Nissan. That probably should be the third, to be fair. He escaped one in the first round this season. But Norman Nato, what the hell is happening? We've already talked about Ollie Rowland, haven't we? 68 points, he's in the championship lead, and he's in the lead of the constructors as well. Teams. He's in the lead of the teams championship as well with those 68 points. Norman Nato has so far contributed nil points to Nissan's efforts in that teams championship. Crazy, isn't it? I know he's had a bit of bad luck and things like that, but this race in particular, there was no real excuse for it. No excuse for it whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Just so frustrating. So frustrated once again from Norman Nato. I expected a lot more from him than this. I thought he was a good replacement for Fenestraz, who I rated Fenestraz, don't get me wrong, but he had a struggling season last season, and if Nissan wanted to make a serious attack, they needed a serious, solid second driver. I thought they got that in Norman. I'm pretty sure that Nissan thought they got that in Norman as well. But at the moment, it's not looking that well. Way is it? Let's not forget as well, Norman Nato turned down that second Andretti seat offer to come to Nissan. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to say for Norman. I like the guy. I think he's a great character. We've seen some fantastic races from him as well in seasons previous. And you know, as soon as like last season, he had some good races. But so far, it's just not working out at all. Not working out at all. If Ollie Rowland's the Max Verstappen of Formula E, then right now, Norman Nato is the Sergio Perez, unfortunately, is he, for that Red Bull squad? Because his teammates winning races, scoring podiums, he's picked up nothing. It's difficult, isn't it? Norman, I really do like you, buddy. I want to see you do well, but it has to be a Lotterer of the week, because this is what Lotterer did just a couple of seasons ago at Andretti. Secured next to nothing while his teammate went and won a championship. It could be a mirror image. Come on, Norman. Then we come to Lucas di Grassi in the first of the Lola Yamaha Apt cars, or whatever they are called. Yeah, difficult one for di Grassi. Got a bit of telly time though, didn't they? They went for attack mode really early on in the race. Like they were the first car to take it, and they were battling for the win, weren't they? Was unable to get around Taylor Barnard, but got through the rest of the field. And then as a result of taking that attack mode early, they then became vulnerable, of course, when everyone else took their attacks, and he tumbled back down to where he belonged and where the Lola Yamaha squad belongs so far this season, which is nowhere near the points, unfortunately. Lucas di Grassi gets 4 from me. It's probably a harsh score because he at least put some effort in, got some telly time for the Lola squad. But yeah, going for the glory in the early few laps when you know you can't execute the race in the end. It's a shame, isn't it? But nonetheless, 4 to Lucas di Grassi, of course, for what was a spirited drive. I think we can say that, can't we? It was certainly spirited, even if it was always on a hide into absolutely nothing. At least we saw something of the Lola squad on the telly for the first time this season. 4 to di Grassi, probably harsh by a couple of points to be fair. He's done nothing wrong, has he? Just the car's not great at all. Next up, we come to David Beckmann in the second of the Kiro Race Quid Pro Quo Status Quo Neos, whatever they're called. Yeah, another difficult weekend, a difficult race for David Beckmann. Qualified himself well, though. Got himself in P11. Didn't make anything of it, unfortunately. Made no progress forward and just tumbled backwards. He's avoided a Lotterer of the week this time around, just for the simple fact he is still a relative rookie in the championship. Not really an excuse, though, when you see what Taylor Barnard's doing. However, we know that the Kiro car, as we've already mentioned with Dan Ticktum, old powertrain in the back of it, it's an underfunded team compared to the rest of the grid on the field. So, got to cut him a little bit of slack with that. However, been many places, more than, well, almost double the amount of places behind your teammate. Not great, is it? So it's just 2 points from me for David Beckmann. If there's no progress in the next race, then unfortunately it will have to be a Lotterer for him. I really want to see him do well, because I think he deserves his opportunity in Formula E, but so far, not so great, is it? We saw a good drive from him in Mexico before it went wrong, but Jeddah has been very much a anonymous weekend. If he wasn't there, we wouldn't have known. It's that kind of drive, unfortunately, for Beckmann. So just 2 points to him. And yeah, lucky to avoid a Lotterer. Then we come to Zane Maloney, unfortunately the second of the Lola Yamaha cars. He was the one that initially caused the aborted start due to the car needing a control hold delete as the cars was moving 2 rows forward before they progressed for the race. Of course, they spin the rear tyres up to get some temperature into them, and then away they go. But yeah, Zane Maloney's car juddered forward, came to a halt, and then he was like, ah shit, so I had to do a 30-second reset, and then was able to line up where he belonged, and then got off the line, and then it needed a reset again. So he had to reset it again. It was unseen on the cameras, but I think he made it around the first couple of corners, then it died, which was a big shame. So then he had to stop on the track, do a reset, came into the pits, checked the car over, they plugged it in, I think, and then sent it out again. And then that was it for the rest of the race. Once again, just a test session from the moment it began, really, for Zane Maloney, because he was driving with one hand tied behind his back, being almost a minute down on the field, nearly a lap down by the end, so that was a shame. So Zane Maloney, it's 3 points for him. Again, not his fault, really. Nothing he did wrong. Couldn't prove his worth. Issues with the car. Had to come into the pits. But once again, no safety car intervention to help him get onto the back of the grid again to try and have a go. But yeah, points were never really going to be possible anyway, were they? The Yamaha squad, very much a learning year, a development year. They've admitted that. But I would say that this Jeddah weekend in particular is probably more difficult than even they were expecting. 3 to Zane Maloney. Shame to see him so far down here. Shame to see him have 2 races back-to-back where there was issues, of course. Penalties in the first race, technical issues with the car this. But yeah, overall, hopefully next time out, they can go a little bit better. Next up, we come to Sebastian Buemi. Don't know why he's down here. Don't know why he's down here at all. I haven't got a clue, to be honest with you. I don't know if he retired. He didn't retire, but I'm sure he's behind Zane Maloney, so he had a pit stop, didn't he? Something was wrong with the car at some point. Didn't see it on the footage, unfortunately, so I can't really talk about it. No doubt when this video goes out, there'll be a full highlights reel that I'll be able to watch and enjoy and sink my teeth into and see things we didn't see during a race. That happens all the time. Happens all the time here. So, yeah, after I've talked absolute nonsense, go watch the Formula E stuff that comes out, because, yeah, it's just how it seems to be. I don't know what happened, and then I find out what happened after I've recorded. Great stuff. Thanks, Formula E. But yeah, Sebastian Buemi, it's 4 points. I've been a little bit generous with him there because I can't remember what happened to him. I don't think he retired, but he was obviously behind Zane Maloney, so he had issues. Yeah, big shame. I don't know why, but once again, envision. Oh, God, come on! Next up, we come to Mitch Evans in the Jaguar, pitted at the end and retired. And once again, I don't know why at this time of recording. He lost a load of places and a yellow flag came out, so maybe there was contact. I'm going to assume there was contact. Do I know if it was his fault or not? No, I don't. But yeah, he was able to bring it back to the pits, and then that was it, unfortunately. Game over from there. So, yeah, it was a retirement, which is a shame, really. As you know, for retirements on this series, the maximum they can score is 5. I think that's a fairer score to give, even if they retire on the last lap or whatever. I think 5 is a fair score, because obviously in the main race itself, they score nothing at all. Mitch Evans, I didn't really see what happened to him. I don't know what happened to him. I just know he was in trouble. But even before then, before the trouble occurred or whatever happened, a mechanical issue, I don't know. But yeah, whatever happened, it sort of cost him maybe a couple of points, but it wasn't going to be anything more than that, unfortunately. So yeah, Mitch Evans, 4 points to him. Out of a maximum of 5 a retirement can score. If we find out it was ended up him being silly contacts and stuff, but the wing was intact, wasn't it? The front wing was intact, so I don't think it was his fault. I think if anything went wrong, he probably got rear-ended or squeezed into a wall. I don't know at the time of recording. 4 points to Mitch Evans. Disastrous weekend once again. Then we come to Antonio Felix de Costa, the other retirement in this race, of course, taken out by Maximilian Gunther on lap 1, turn 4. His race came to a halt there. He was heavily hit in the rear left quarter, and that was rear left suspension damage for him. Race over. Huge shame for de Costa. Got himself a good qualifying spot there. I'm not saying it was brilliant. There maybe could have been a little bit more out of that, especially with the Porsche powertrain behind. But nonetheless, wasn't his fault why he got absolutely harpooned off, and he deserved a lot more from that race. He, of course, could have been a big point scorer for Porsche. Wehrlein only picking up a couple this race. So, yeah, a really difficult weekend overall for de Costa. And for me personally, it's middle of 05, which of course is a maximum a retirement can score. I think that's a fair assessment based on where he was in qualifying. Could have maybe done a little bit more, but not much. And then to get harpooned off on lap 1, turn 4, that's not your fault, is it? That's not his fault at all. And there could have been another podium on the cards for de Costa. Certainly a top 5 finish would have been realistic, but it all came undone due to no fault of his own. A maximum of 5 for a retirement to Antonio Felix de Costa. And then last but by no means least, we do of course come to Maxi Gunther. And there we have it. Of course, it had to be a lottery of the week to Maxi Gunther. Talk about hero to zero. This is literally Max Gunther in a nutshell. You could not script it more perfectly, could you? We know he has the highest of highs and we know he has the lowest of lows. Never, ever, ever, I don't think we've ever seen Maxi Gunther go from high to low this rapidly in one doubleheader weekend. We've seen him have disastrous doubleheaders, we've seen him have fantastic doubleheaders, but we have never seen it where he's gone from having me scoring him 12 points. You know, 2 bonus points, that's a lot for me to do. And an impeccable drive in race number 1 here at Jeddah. And then at race number 2, he takes himself out of the race and takes another competitor out of a race. So early on. Not even half a way around the first lap. Make it make sense, Maxi. Make it make sense. I don't know what he was doing. There wasn't space, there wasn't room. Oh, dear me. I mean, he's probably got a penalty for that as well, hasn't he, coming in? I'm sure he will have. I'm sure he's got a grid drop coming his way for the next round after that, because he can't get away with taking out de Costa, surely to God. You know, there can't be no further action. I don't know. I've not caught up with it, but yeah. So it's probably going to be a penalty as well going into the next round, of course, for the contact, because that was stupid. Absolutely stupid. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe we've literally gone from singing his praises to watching that. just seeing that, and I'm like, what are you doing? Big shame. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I don't think I've ever talked about someone in one episode as well that won the race and then finished here dead last. You know, first retirement of the race. Max Gunther. Appalling. Anyway, that's that for Maxi Gunther. A lottery of the week to him. Fully deserving of it. And I honestly just don't know. I don't know where his head was at in that opportunity. He did such a smart drive all the way up through the field in yesterday's race. Knew how to manage. Knew how to pace. Knew how to get round cars. And then he just goes and harpoons to Costa. Weird. So there we go then, guys. Those were the runners and riders of round number 2 here at Jeddah, round number 4 of the championship, of course. Let me know down in the comment section, did I score any drivers too high, any too low? The updated standings with the scores I've just awarded are on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is now. And yeah, what do you think to the scores overall? Norman Nato, the first driver to secure 2 lotteries of the week this season. Remember, once they get 5, they are out of here. So Norman Nato already on the thinnest of thin ice, really, considering we're only just a few rounds in. Very, very strange indeed. But yeah, he needs to book his ideas up, doesn't he? He is propping up the back of the field at the moment. Maxi Gunther, after having such a great race yesterday, tumbles down the order once again. And a lottery assigned to him as well. The Brits having a fantastic weekend, of course. All the Brits, apart from Sam Bird, are in the front half, are inside the top 10. So yeah, go on Brits, go on Brits. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in a few weeks' time for the next E-Prix. I think we've got Formula 1 before we've got the next E-Prix, you know. So yeah, keep an eye out for the return of the Crawl Room if you're into your Formula 1. If not, I'll see you in a few weeks' time for the Formula E, round number 5 from somewhere. I can't remember. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And as always, much love.